everybody, my name is Carrie and this is The Creative Obsession. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new to my channel, this is my channel where I talk about all my crafty endeavors, mostly quilting and knitting. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up if you like it, and all that jazz. All the links to where you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry are in the description box below. And anything that I talk about that has a link or a website or anything like that, I will put in that description box below the video. So thank you so much for joining me. Things might look a little bit different. My camera that I was using to record with most recently, it broke, and so it's in getting fixed, and so I'm back to using my old camera, and which is fine, but it has a fixed focus, so I can't show you anything close up, and I have to pay attention to the time because it only records for 12 minutes at a time. So we're back to the old way of doing things, and so I hope I can remember to keep an eye on that. So hopefully there won't be any interruptions, kind of doing things the way I used to do them. So I was trying to hold off on recording because I was waiting for my camera to come back, and I don't know when that's happening. I should have had it by now, so who knows. So on the last episode that I recorded, oh, what episode is this? I don't even have my notes with me. This is episode 50 something. Anyway, in the last episode, I announced that I wanted to do a giveaway for one of the table runners. So you left comments on whether you wanted one with the gray background or one with the white background. And so I want to start off by just doing the drawing. So everybody that commented got their name put on a piece of paper. And so let's just see who won. Diane Howard, you wanted the gray one. So Diane Howard, contact me. Let's see, how can you contact me? Contact me on my email through email. Unless you're on Ravelry or Instagram, you can contact me that way as well. And that way I can get your information and get your gray table runner out to you. Now, I haven't sewn the binding on it yet because I was working on the white one. And I got really involved with other projects, and so I haven't sat down and finished them. I've got the binding made. I was trying to record a tutorial on all of that, and I recorded some stuff about doing the quilting and stuff, and it's gone. I don't know where it is. It's not on. It's gone. It got erased accidentally or whatever, and I'm just like, haven't really been in the mood to re-record it, so I don't know if I'm gonna have another video about quilting and stuff. So anyway, I do need to still sew the binding on for you, so it's gonna be a little while. Binding is my least favorite part of making a quilt, and so it's the one that I put off as long as I can. So now I have to do it. So you get the gray one. Just know that it's not my best quilting. Hopefully you'll understand that. So Diane Howard, yay for you. I'm going to keep that out so I remember. Okay, so I don't have a ton of projects and things to show you, but one thing that I was really trying to finish, and it was another reason why I kind of waited until I recorded a podcast, is because I finished my sweater. So this is the sweater I did on my knitting machine. So I had talked about it before, and I've posted some pictures on Instagram, and I got a a Craftsy class with Renee Callahan, and it's just like a basic sweater pattern, and you take whatever your gauge is, so whatever yarn you want to use, whether it's worsted to lace weight if you want. I don't think my machine can knit with lace weight, but I know it can knit with fingering, and I really wanted a fingering weight sweater. And so in the gauge that I was really trying to get that was a little bit tighter than what I ended up doing, I didn't have enough needles on my machine to meet that gauge and get the size that I wanted. So it was looking like I was going to have to do it with DK weight, which would be fine. I just didn't really want a DK weight sweater because I didn't think I would wear it that much. Really wanted to try and do fingering weight. So what I ended up doing is doing some more swatches with my fingering weight and loosened my tension, which is basically like going up a needle size or two or however far you need to go. So I went up like a needle size and was able to make the calculations work with the number of needles that I had. And I thought, well, if it's looser, it's going to be more airy instead of something that's really dense. And so maybe I won't get so hot. So I'm going to go with it. It's like, I got to try it. Worst case scenario, I unravel it and I have, kinky yarn, but I can deal with that. So I went through all the calculations, and she has you go through this whole worksheet where you take like your so many stitches per inch, so many rows per inch. Then you want the sleeve to be so long, so you figure it out with your rows per inch, and that's how many rows you need to make. And it was a pretty complicated worksheet she had you go through, but it was really effective. If you just did it step by step, it worked out fine. So it was like, okay, fingers crossed, let's do this. And then I decided I wanted to do it in my orchid colorway, and I wanted to do it on my new cushy sock base. So got that all going. The pattern is basically like you make a square or a rectangle. And that's really what the back is it's just a square. I'll say square just for the sake of, I'm not going to be all correct on it. And then the front, you do the same thing, except when you get to where the neck is, then you do some decreasing to give you a neck shaping. So, you don't really know what it's going to look like, because when it's on the machine, things are stretched out really far because there's space between the needles. And so it's all just like super stretched out. It's like my body's not this wide, because it's all going to go back together. So I wasn't really sure and just kind of kept going through it. And I decided to do ribbing on the bottom hem, and I did ribbing around the neck and on the cuff of the sleeve. And she has, you can either do that in the pattern, or you knit it a little longer and you just turn up the hem. But I kind of wanted the ribbing. I wanted to try and do that. So ribbing is pretty slow because you have to manually drop stitches down and then latch them up stitch by stitch, because the knitting machine only does a knit stitch. It doesn't do purling. And so to get ribbing where you would normally knit and purl, you have to manually manipulate that. So that was pretty tedious when I was going along with, however many hundred whatever stitches I had. But I kept thinking in my head, like, but the rest of it's going to go way faster. And so I just got through it, and I was listening to an audiobook, I was watching podcasts, and it was just like every little bit of time I could work on it, I just kind of did. And then when you get to the knitting part, it's just like, it's super fast. I did alternate skeins, but I don't know that I really needed to, because I didn't alternate skeins on the sleeves. I just knitted them straight from the skein, and they look fine. So, but it's always a good idea to alternate skeins when you're doing a sweater, just because it is hand-dyed yarn and all of that stuff. So I was able to knit this sweater. I knit the large size with my cushy sock base, and this is what I have left of the 4th skein. So I used 3 2/3 of a skein to do this sweater. This is like 39 grams, and the skeins are 115 grams a piece. So if you want to do the math, do the math. And it fits. It actually does fit, except for one spot that I have to figure out what to do with, and I'm going to show you. I'm not taking the sweater off, but you can see here as my sweater, you start at the cuff and you go along and you're slowly increasing every, you go through the worksheet. So for me, it was every 3 rows, and then you get to a certain point and then you increase every 2 rows. And so I was doing that, and then you just knit. Well, I think the increases needed to be more gradual, because now I have this like, you try not to have that waddle on your arms, especially women try to not have that waddle on your arms. And naturally my waddle is firming up with all the working out I'm doing. But I have this like weird shape to my sleeve. And I followed the directions, and even when I was doing it, I thought, that just seems kind of odd that you're increasing so quickly and then you just stop. But I kept kind of double checking and redoing my calculations, and it all seemed to be right. So I just kind of trusted it, but that's not right. Now, luckily for me, I always wear my sleeves scrunched up. Next time I'll probably do just a 3/4 sleeve because that's how I wear them. I don't like to have sleeves around my wrists. So it does get kind of bunched up, but I can't really stand up because I'm on a tall chair. But, you know, because it's just a square shape, then there's no like shaping here. I think that it fits good, but, you know, it's a drop sleeve. So it would be good for me to find a pattern that had the seam closer to the shoulder because I don't have real wide shoulders anyway. But overall, I'm really happy with it. Having, you know, I figure if anything, it's just going to be my knock around the house, my going camping sweater, which may sound weird, like to have a hand knit sweater to go camping in, but it's a nice warm wool sweater. And I did it with having the interruptions and still trying to dye and do all those other things, and did it in a week. And there is no way that I could knit a sweater in a week. I can't even knit a pair of socks in a month. It takes me 2 to 3 months to knit a pair of socks. So knitting a sweater, to be able to knock it out pretty quickly, I'm happy with it. And actually, I'm not too hot. I'm wearing it right now and I'm not too hot. So that's encouraging. It's not baggy. Like I said, I can't stand up because I'm on a tall chair. Okay, that's as much as you can see. It's not baggy. It's not super fitted. It's just, I think it fits the way it's supposed to fit. So it's just this part here that this has got to change. So what I'm going to do, I met up with Lori and Michelle yesterday, and I showed Lori, and she suggested contacting the teacher through Craftsy because supposedly you can contact them and ask questions and blah, blah, blah. So I might contact her and say, okay, what did I do wrong, so that I know the next time to make some changes. And what I may even end up doing is, you know, do my decreases and just continue to do them the same amount of rows apart. Like I was doing every 3 rows, and then I moved to every 2 rows. Just do every 3 rows until the decrease stops closer to the armpit rather than at my waddle. It fits though. I'm so happy that it fits. You know how that is when you're making something big and you put a lot of time into it and you're just like, oh gosh, I hope this fits. So I'm really happy with it. I love the color. I love the way it knit up. I love the stitch definition. And as I was working on it, I just kept thinking, I really hope this works out because I have all kinds of ideas. Cough up a hairball. I have all kinds of ideas of doing striping and stuff. Like I was alternating skeins, which basically you would do with striping, and I would do it every 2 rows because you slide the carriage over, and so my yarn, my working yarn is started over here, and I go this way. And if I wanted to add another color, I have to go back so that I can switch the yarn. Does that make any sense? It's like every 2 rows is how it would happen. And that's how I did this. Back and forth, changed, you know, did what I have to do to change, to work on the other skein, back and forth, and just keep doing it. I thought this would be really cool in like a charcoal gray with like a neon, like even my Wham Bam colorway, which is just sort of neon fun colors in between the dark charcoal gray. I think would just be a fun sweater. So, you know, like I said, just even if I just use this as my knock around the house instead of throwing on a sweatshirt, I have a sweater on, I'm happy with that. I just got to fix the sleeve situation. And now that I know, you know, kind of like how it all worked and how all those measurements went into play, I can play with it a little bit more in thinking, okay, I really only want my sleeve to be this long. So then how many rows is that? Which will change how I decrease it and stuff. But yeah, really happy with it. Yeah, there's nothing else that really I can say about it. So I do have this colorway in my shop. This is Orchid. So it's a pinky, a little bit of purple in it. Yeah, so fun. I made a sweater. Woo! And it fits. You don't know how exciting that is. I I don't know if I shared some new yarn. I know one of them I didn't because I just got it. But Michelle had given me some yarn, and I think she had bought it to be my birthday present and couldn't wait because my birthday's in June. And I don't think I shared it. So if I did, sorry, it's going to be repeated. But this is yarn from Arkansas Yarn Company. And it's this beautiful, oh, I can't show you close. See, that's this camera. You have to look at it from back here. It's this beautiful speckled with green and purple, and then this beautiful purple mini, I think. This isn't a full skein. It does say that it is 200, it's 50 grams and 219 yards, and I believe this is a 20-gram mini. So it's just like a sock set, which is fine because you know how you always have a lot of extra yarn from making your socks. So I'll make this as my sock, which will just be so pretty, and this as my heels, toes, and cuffs. So I don't think I showed you, but I love it and it's pretty. And then my friend Christy, who is hosts the Relatively Crafty podcast, and I've mentioned her before, she just randomly sent me a skein of yarn, which just lifted my spirits so much. So she sent me this. I'll do this back here because this is where it's focusing. And it's called 6 and 7 fiber. And this is the colorway Curio. So 75-25. 20 grams each. Is it 2? It says it's 20 grams each. No, it's one skein. Okay, they tagged it wrong. I'm sure it's 400 and some yards, but it says 20 grams each. This isn't a 20 gram each kind of a thing. Okay, now I gotta open it all the way up. That's pretty. No, it's one skein. Yeah, it's one skein. Okay, so all these beautiful, beautiful colors. And there you go. So thank you, Christy. I messaged her and already thanked her, but that was really sweet because it was like, oh, I got a package, and you know, you order stuff, and at least I do. And I think, what did I order? Didn't I already get everything I ordered? Especially if it comes from Amazon. I'm terrible about that. And I thought, what did I order? And then I saw it was from Christy, and I thought, what is Christy sending me? So it was really sweet. It's really thoughtful when people go, oh, I saw this, and I thought of you, and it doesn't happen to me very often, and I appreciate it. So those were some new acquisitions to me. And so knitting-wise, I really was spending as much time as I could on this sweater because I really wanted to get it finished, and I really wanted to show you guys. And so I continued to work on my Nirmal N2 shawl, and I showed you last time. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. So it's the Nirmal N2, and it is by Heidi Allender. And so what I had kind of threw out there is about doing a different color for the lace. So I ended up doing that. So this is my Wildflower colorway, and I got to the bottom, to the last lace repeat panel, whatever, and I did Orchid. Now this was a first run of Orchid. It's a little more purple than what my sweater is, but it goes with it. And so that was actually the end of the shawl, and I just didn't feel like the shawl was big enough. And I know it's not blocked yet, and so I know it will grow. See if it goes like this. It's just like, it's not quite long enough for me, because you know how I like things to be worn a little bit looser. So I was talking with Lori, and I'm like, would that just be weird if I did another garter section and lace section in the Orchid colorway? Because I don't have a lot left of my Wildflower colorway, and it's only supposed to use, I should have had plenty of yarn with this, so it may end up blocking out a lot bigger than I'm thinking, which bigger is always better for shawls and stuff. So what we decided to do is I was doing the lace, and then it goes into a garter section, then you do lace, and you just kind of keep repeating it. So I've already started the garter section. I'm gonna probably do maybe a couple more rows, and then do a couple rows of this to kind of carry this color out into the orchid. Then continue on with the orchid with the rest of for the rest of the garter, and then do another lace section. So that'll increase the length of it by this much, which should give me enough. I have plenty of this because I just broke into that skein. So I put that aside because I was starting to cast on something new, and I just pulled it back out again yesterday to start working on it. So the garters stuff I can just do easy, and I just, it's just back and forth. It's when I get to the lace, I can't just do it when I'm sitting with people or, having to have a conversation. So hopefully that'll be done by the next time I podcast, because I think it's going to be really pretty. So that, like I said, that got kind of put aside because I did pick up and cast on something else. I'm not even going to try and justify it because we all do it. So let me show you what's next. Okay, I decided to cast on the Hitchhiker. I've had this pattern for a couple of years. I bought it a couple of years ago and have never started one. And Melissa of Hands That Make podcast used to be the Spicy Homemaker. She's renamed it, rebranded it as the Hands That Make. I think that's what it's called. Sorry, Melissa, if I got it wrong. Should have looked that up before, but my notes are downstairs. Because you're lucky you're getting a podcast today. So anyway, I started it, and I've gotten pretty far. So I decided to do it in a stripe pattern because I would have needed to use a couple of skeins anyway. And somebody on Ravelry had done it and gave notes. Thankfully, people put their notes on Ravelry. Not like me, but like some people really do it. And told her how she did it. So I don't have ends to weave in. I'm carrying the yarn as I go, and so that was what her instructions were. So supposedly you make this till you have 42 of these teeth. And I already have that, but it's not long enough. I know it'll stretch. I just don't feel like it's long enough. See, once again, it needs to go like that. So I'm continuing, and I'm just going to keep going for a little while longer. I don't know how long, but I'm doing this in my iridescent colorway and totally teal. This is really good, like TV knitting, like you would a sock, just kind of vanilla sock, because it's just garter, and you only do something when you get to the ends, and then you just go back and forth and keep track of how many rows you're doing. But really, it's just garter. I had it over at Robert's house last night. We were watching a movie, and I was able to do it pretty well without looking. But then I couldn't see anymore. It started getting dark enough, I couldn't see, and I stopped. But it's been a really fun project. So I've been working on this a lot because it's just been a really comfortable, easy knit for me to do. And I think I've kind of needed that lately. So progress on that one. I wanted to share also, this has nothing to do with knitting or anything, but it was a find of mine, and it was something that I was looking for to help me when I dye yarn. So what I like to do when I dye yarn is I was tying with a cotton yarn, just a loop around the skein. So it gave me something to pull it out of the water with, kind of like just a handle of some sort. And that was working okay. There were some issues with it, but it was working okay. And then I tried to do it with shower curtain rings, because that was firm. But getting those on and off of the skein were kind of a pain for me, and I had to really be careful that it wasn't, the way it was sitting in the water wasn't creating a resist. Because if your yarn is sitting on something that's kind of holding it, then dye can't get in there, and it creates a resist, and then you get a white spot or whatever. So I was on the search for something, and I came across these wide zip ties. So they're like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch wide. These are 12-inch zip ties. And I just can stick it around the yarn because it's really open, not like the shower curtain ring, and you just zip it and you're good to go. But these are removable. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, because zip ties are super handy. It's kind of like the duct tape kind of thing. And so I found these on Amazon. They're Houghton. I don't know, Houghton, something like that. They came in a package like this. You get 100 of them, but they have this little like push tab that that releases them. So they lock and they hold really well. They work really well in the hot water. It doesn't affect them. It does make them keep a bend in them, which isn't any big deal. And I've been able to just reuse them, which I love, because I hate just a one-time use kind of thing. So anyway, I thought these were cool, and they'd be cool to just have, just because they hold things. So these have been really fun to use, and it's my little tool find of the day. So if you need a zip tie, there you go. I can put a link to the page from Amazon of who they are and what they are, but I don't know. Things like that just make me just super happy. I love gadgets. I love tools. And so that just sort of feeds into that whole part of my brain. So that's all I've got as far as things that I've made. And so I want to share with you some of the new yarns and new colors that I've put in the shop recently since I last spoke with you. And so if you're done with me, see you later. If you want to see what's new, hang on, and I'm going to get that basket of yarn back there. Okay, some of this you may have seen, but I'm just going to go over it. It's stuff that in the last couple of weeks I've been dyeing. So like I said, I've got Orchid in the shop. Nymphomaniac, this was a colorway that I dyed. It was a custom colorway that Carrie, who is known as Nymphomaniac, she also does a podcast with Darlene, who is Bags by Awesome Granny. And their podcast is Knitter's Gotta Knit. And anyway, she had requested if I could make up this colorway that she had envisioned in her head. And it turned out really well. Her sweater is gorgeous. She made a whole sweater out of it, and it's really beautiful. So this is Nymphomaniac. It is now available in my shop for everybody. This is suede. It's kind of a taupe. A little bit of like rust spots in it. Tiny little bit. This is Truffle Hunter. So you've got the darker brown and kind of taupe with some blue and green. This is Camo. I believe I called it Camo. I'll have to check, but I believe it is. So it's just a tan with some blue and green on it. Those are good guy colors if you're looking for a guy color. This is a new color, Jewel Box. So it a little bit of teal and some pink and some darker orange. Sorry, my chair's super squeaky. This is Old Soul. I actually think those two go together really good. So Old Soul is just a nice gold colorway. Just reminded me of like old, I don't know, kind of old, like an old soul. Sometimes I can be weeks and cannot think of a name for something, and sometimes it comes to me right when it's being dyed, and it may not make any sense, but it's like I gotta go with it. Drama Queen is back in the shop. I haven't dyed that in a while. So you've got some bright pink and orange, a little bit of yellow. Sea Glass, hadn't done that in a long time, so that's turquoise and green tonal kind of color. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. This batch did turn out a little bit dark, a little bit more on the pink side, but you've got some neon stuff going on there. And then this, I got a new color, and I just threw it in a pot to see what would happen, and I got this, which I think is really pretty. So you've got this kind of fluorescent pink and purple going on there. There's only one skein of this. That's just just a trial to see, kind of a one of a kind. So those are some of the new colors that are in the shop. So head on over to there if you're interested in any of those. And if there's ever a color that you see that you're like, oh, I really like that. Like say you decided you wanted to make a sweater out of this and you need more of it, or you want it on DK or worsted or something like that, contact me and I can dye some up for you. I do that all the time. So I try to guess what's going to sell and what people are going to want the colors for, but I can't always guess it. Things that I think, oh my gosh, this would make the most beautiful sweater, and I'll dye like a bunch of them thinking somebody's going to do that, and then it can sit there forever. So, you know, just let me know if you see something that you like and you maybe want more of it or in a different base. It's not a big deal. So that's really all I got going on. I really need to go eat some lunch because I'm really hungry. And then I've got some pots that are cooling off downstairs. So I'm going to move on and do that. Diane, contact me and you can have your table runner on your way eventually, but you'll get it. So thank you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I will get back with you in a couple of weeks and hopefully have some more stuff done. And I really need to get to my sewing machine. Yeah. Now that my sweater's done though, maybe I could use that time to sew, although I kind of want to make another sweater. Who knows? Okay, so I will see you all later, and thanks for being here. Have a good one, and, you know, keep those needles moving.